Prime Minister Netanyahu has authorized new construction of about 1,000 apartments in Jerusalem, and some say that that is an obstacle to peace. What do you say?
So I personally come politically from the labor,
Yes.
and I am very much a supporter of achieving peace by means of two states, a Jewish state and an Arab state. But I do believe even if you're against settlements or for the settlements, they're not at the core of the conflict. The settlements are not what's making peace impossible. The settlements are not what's preventing the possibility of the emergence of a Palestinian state. Actually, even Netanyahu has been one of the prime ministers to build the least in the settlements, and actually he has built on settlements that most Israelis consider consensus, that are abutting what's called the Green Line, that even if there were to be a Palestinian state, would be included in Israel. So he has not made a Palestinian state impossible. 47 years after Israel's controlling the West Bank, all the settlements take about 6% of the area. Much of it is on the Green Line, close to Israel. So two states are still very much a possibility. What is at the core of the conflict continues to be the denial of the idea that the Jewish people have a right, not a might, have a right to self-determination in their historic homeland. That right continues to be broadly denied and rejected by the Palestinians, by the Arab world more broadly, and that is at the core of the conflict. The core of the conflict is the inacceptance of a Jewish state, whatever size.
In light of the Gaza war last summer and also unity between Fatah and Hamas, how can you sit down and negotiate with someone who their goal is to destroy you?
So I would say that the word solution has lost some of its allure over the last few years. And people are coming to the realization that as much as they want peace, our goals are incompatible. We want to exist. We want a sovereign state. We believe that the Jewish people should have a state, small or large, but they should have a sovereign state. And broadly speaking, the Arab world rejects that. So there is an understanding that our non-existence is not something to be negotiated. But that is the desired outcome on the other side. So I think we need to forgo of ideas such as negotiating a solution. Right now, I wouldn't say that's in the cards. It doesn't mean that we cannot find ways to live side by side in security, in dignity, and finding forms where each find their own national self-expression. But achieving peace right now, when the price of peace for the Arabs is to recognize for all time and for good that the Jewish people will have their own state living there side by side, up until now, this is a price that they're not willing to pay. We need in many ways to recognize that and to just find other ways to wake up each morning alive.
The recent assassination attempt against Rabbi Glick once again draws attention to the problem of the Temple Mount. Should Jews be allowed to pray there?
So if you want to speak in terms of rights, of course, everyone should be allowed to pray. It should belong to everyone. It is holy to everyone. It is certainly holy to the Jews. This is the site of their original temple. The Jews in general, we should know, have a double relationship towards the Temple Mount. Some want to pray there, and some believe that it's so holy that they should not pray there. But I think it should be up to the Jews themselves to decide whether they pray there or not. So in terms of speaking as what the situation should be, of course, there should be mutual respect of the fact that this is a holy place for all. The problem is that presently, any Jewish assertion of those rights is immediately used to incite passions across the Arab world, across the Muslim world. They view it almost as infidel presence on what they view as their exclusive territory.
Desecrating their mosque,
yes,
their site.
And of course, there's no desecration happening, and Jews are not even entering the mosques and coming nowhere near that, but generally being in the area is unacceptable. This is literally a very explosive area. So we should find a way to walk a fine line between what should be the situation, which is, of course, everyone should be allowed to be there and pray, and being pragmatic and wise about managing a very explosive situation.
Well, how do you prevent this from getting out of hand? I mean, last time it led to the second intifada, did it not?
Yes.
So, I mean, it could become very explosive.
It could, and things could get out of hand, even though there is no real interest right now on behalf of the sides in a new round of violence. I think, especially on the Palestinian side, they have realized that violence has failed them. The second intifada, which included attacks, bloody suicide attacks, indiscriminate attacks against civilians in cafes, in buses, did not rally people to their cause. So they know that it does not serve them. So we need to make sure that things do not get out of hand. The Prime Minister, for now, has closed the Temple Mount to all Jews, Arabs, Muslims, Christians, visitors.
Was that a wise move?
Yes. Basically, the desire is right now to calm tensions, kind of get everyone trying to make sure that elements of friction are lessened, so have people basically not be in the vicinity of each other. And there is a desire to pull back. Because there's a desire to pull back, I do have hope that this will not turn into a larger explosion of violence.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry recently implied that Israel's lack of willingness to make concessions with the Palestinians is helping ISIS recruit new fighters. What do you think?
I thought it was an unfortunate statement, and I think it does not, the statement does not appreciate the extent to which the Islamic State and people across the Arab world and in Islamist circles think that the entire existence of the State of Israel is an affront and humiliation to the Arab world. It's not about peace. It's not about the existence of a Palestinian state. It's not even about the settlements. It's about the fact that a Jewish sovereign existence, a powerful Jewish sovereign existence, is allowed to continue in the midst of what they consider their own Muslim holy lands, entrusted to them, and no infidels or Jews should be allowed to govern them. And this is the humiliation, and that I acknowledge. The Arabs and the Muslims broadly see that as a humiliation to them. But that's not about Israel making concessions. And I think we don't even know the full story of how far the Israeli Prime Minister was willing to go for peace. But I think we need to understand, still at the core of the conflict is the denial of the right of the Jewish state to exist. So every time there's an opportunity for the Arabs, for the Palestinians to say, look, you can have a 23rd Arab state, a Palestinian state in the West Bank and Gaza. The price of it is for all times, finally and for good, you recognize the right of the Jewish people to have their own sovereign state side by side with you. Until now, the choice has been to say no and not to pay the price, because the very existence of the Jewish state is the humiliation.
Well, and you talk about humiliation. I know that your prime minister was recently humiliated when it leaked out that members of the Obama administration had a number of not so flattering names for him. How did that affect U.S. relations?
I can assure you that Israelis do not appreciate that.
Yeah.
Even Israelis who do not support the prime minister do not appreciate name calling of their elected prime minister. It's a democracy. It's not a dictatorship, so he is our elected prime minister, and we do not view it favorably when he's called names. I think it was uncalled for. I also think that it was a foreign policy mistake. Why say that Israel is not ready to carry out a military attack against Iran when this has been such a critical element in building the negotiating power of the West against Iran? Why dismantle yourself of such a powerful position? So I think it has been uncalled for, unhelpful, and I really don't see any reason for that in any